Sonam's arrest, his wife, Gitanjali Angmo, is yet to receive the detention order. She says that she has not been allowed to speak to her husband. We have Gitanjali with us today. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
So, you wrote a letter to the president yesterday seeking intervention in the matter from her. What have you demanded in the letter, and have you heard back from the president?
I've not yet heard back, and I think the letter is publicly available. It is seeking his immediate release, and the several prayers, including the opportunity to meet him, to be served the detention order based on which the charges we can take legal recourse, and helping us help him with basic amenities in life, the basic human rights. Because it's been today's the sixth day, and we don't know under what conditions he is. No detention order is served. We have no information about him whatsoever.
So, the Ladakh administration has leveled very serious charges, allegations against Sonam, which includes inciting violence through provocative speeches, alleged ties with Pakistan, and Ladakh's DGP has also said that they have apprehended somebody, a Pakistan intelligence officer who allegedly was in contact with Sonam. So, how would you respond to these allegations?
I think over several press conferences and interviews, I have explained umpteen number of times, and every Indian, including you, know that these are baseless charges. They are being done to frame an individual who was fighting for sixth schedule, which government for some reason is hesitant to give. And instead of resorting to democratic methods of dialogue and discussion and debate, they are resorting to the most undemocratic processes of using oppression, power, and detention to solve this matter. And all the charges have been proven to be false. There is evidence which have been submitted to the various bodies, including the CBI, the IT department, and so on. And there was no case of FCRA. I have explained, umpteenth time that it was not a donation; it was an income that Hayal earned because of its research, and which is not a matter of shame but a matter of pride. That universities across the world want the research that Hayal is doing. Their master students take up our research projects for their MA thesis and projects and so on. So the service agreements, the invoices, the reports of these have been already submitted to the CBI, and they had on the ground accepted that there is no violation of the FCRA. Similarly, I have explained many times that Pakistan visit was a conference on climate change, and it was an invitation by United Nations and the Dawn media to all the scientists and innovators and experts and activists who are working in the space of climate mitigation and climate adaptation. It's an occasion of, just as we continue to play cricket with Pakistan to keep, the sadbhavna feeling alive. It is important to continue to meet intellectuals on issues like climate change, which do not understand borders and are larger than geopolitical tensions, which also have to be taken into account and addressed, but they don't go against each other, just as playing cricket with Pakistan does not go against not having the geopolitical interest of India in mind while dealing with them. So all these allegations have been, they have been rebuttals served, and there is no proof whatsoever of any evidence on the ground. These are just false narratives being created to tarnish the image of Mr. Sonam Wangchuk and weaken his cause for which he has been fighting for. And therefore, everybody laughs at these, condemns them, and says that these are just false and baseless allegations.
So back in Ladakh, what are the anxieties there right now? Please also tell us how this demand for statehood intensified, even though the UT status which was given to Ladakh in 2019 was celebrated. We all saw it, and so basically, can you explain to our viewers briefly about what is it that Ladakh is demanding now and why?
There was never a demand of sixth schedule. This was the election manifesto number one item that the government had promised to give. Okay. So it was never escalated. It is a fight that's been going on now for 40 years of statehood, of legislature, of sixth schedule. And people were happy when 370 was revoked because they got a separate status because Ladakh is culturally, spiritually, climatologically, ecologically very different than Jammu and Kashmir with which it was placed. So it was happy to get a separate identity, but it was a partial separate identity without a legislature, without a statehood, without sixth schedule. And it kept it unprotected to the rest of the country who may misuse it for personal gains without having an interest in the region because they would look at it as just a resource, whereas in Ladakh, nature is looked upon like in India of olden days as the mother. The people of Ladakh, for instance, they do not jump over a stream of water. Just as in rest of India, we do not jump over a child or adults. If somebody is sitting with their legs in front, we don't jump it, right? Because it's considered not respectful. So that much of respect they have, let's say, for water. They don't jump or cross it. And so there is a different way of in which they deal with things, the different way in which they want development. You don't want a cookie cutter development solution to all the regions of the country. So when this did not happen, everybody was disappointed. And what Sonam is representing is just the voice of each and everybody in Ladakh. It's not his, ask alone. He is the voice that is in the heart and mind of every Ladakhi. And it is not a demand, it is a reminder to the government that what you have, promised, you have to fulfill.
So the central government, is has been saying that, it is committed to inclusive governance in Ladakh by engaging directly with the apex body, Leh, and the Kargil Democratic Alliance on the demands of the sixth schedule and also statehood. This dialogue, the government has been saying that it has instituted through a high-powered committee, a subcommittee, and also multiple consultations. So my question is, what has obstructed this formal dialogue with the government?
Several issues here. First of all, the amount, the way they are saying it is participatory, it's not on the ground. Okay. Secondly, when Mr. Sonam Wangchuk was inducted into the apex committee body, he never asked for it. He was requested to join it. There was a distinct, order from the MHA that for the talks he should not come, which also he was okay, as long as the cause is taken care of. But it's not, what you're saying is not true. There is a impression given of participation, but on the ground, it is a unilateral decision of policies to be made. It is these outsiders who don't understand Ladakh and who come there as governors and commissioners for 2 years and 1.5 years, and then they go. Many of them embroiled in corruption, even. The interest they have is not the development of Ladakh, but there is rampant corruption in their activities. So it is not a happy state of affairs. The people there do not see themselves as participatory stakeholders in the decision-making process. And the mistakes that they make of different policies that they design is also um, blatant, the mistakes. I gave an example yesterday of decisions like setting up sewerage treatment plants where you have a tradition of compost toilets, which has to be modernized. So Sonam's uh, ideas resonate with the central government's ideas of revival of indigenous knowledge systems. Let's learn not from Europe alone, but also from our grandparents, from our ancestors, because there is something great about India, that it's a civilization which has an unbroken history of 10,000 years. So we must have done something right with nature, right? And we have to include that in our policies. So be it passive solar heated homes, be it the way water is conserved and preserved. You cannot do just what you do in a tropical India where it is warm, it is lush green, there's a lot of resources. It's very different. The technological solutions, the policy solutions there are very different. Here is a desert with very high, altitude, with temperatures dipping to -30, which is a desert. So there is a certain way people have learned to manage these kinds of resources. So all that Sonam Wangchuk is asking, and they are not heeding to, is that the way things were happening in Ladakh should be kept in mind when policies are designed. And let's say the government who had given this as their manifesto has some reservations to give, they can invite Sonam Wangchuk. He is not some illiterate man on the street. He is an educated, person respected in the whole country and the world. Instead of taking him forcefully and putting him in a jail so that his voice is, you know, stopped, they could have invited him for discussions. And because I'm sure both the leadership as well as Sonam have India's highest interest at heart. So they could have, if they are differing on certain things, the way forward is through dialogue and discussion, not through use of force and power and unfairness, to just use the machinery that you have at your disposal to witch hunt somebody and to detain him and to not even give him a voice to express himself, and to put all kinds of wrong allegations about you know uh, Pakistan and all these connections, especially for a person who has worked for the Indian Army, whose nationalism and patriotism speaks through his works and his words, who had made video after video to ban Chinese products in India. So all of this have to be taken into account when you are making decisions. So this was a very wrong thing that they did, and they have realized that it has misfired, and it will be regretted by them.
Also, after the reorganization of the UT, the government has been saying that Ladakh has seen, a boost in connectivity, a boost in tourism. There is educational infrastructure that has come up. There are some local languages that have been now recognized, domiciles, and, women have got reservations in the Hill Council, all of that. So, despite that, how is it taken by the locals there? What are their concerns besides all this?
So education remains abysmal because we visit the government schools in the villages. It has no infrastructure, no teachers, no students even. Nobody goes to government schools anymore. Everybody wants to go to private schools. So education has been a failure. The Sindhu Central University, they keep asking what Hayal has done. So just a year or two after Hayal, Sindhu Central University was announced by the government. And in 5 years, Hayal has built about 180,000 square feet of space and has taught various students, more than 400 students in different courses, and done so many innovations and all of that. Sindhu Central University today has no infrastructure. It just has a board standing in the middle of the land, despite having all the government backing. So, education, nothing has happened. Okay. Employment, nothing has happened in the past 5 years. Only now, there may be some clerical jobs have been announced. Connectivity, the last mile still remains affected. There are towers that have been put up. But what Sonam is saying is use technology to solve the problems of the mountains. So he has worked on Li-Fi and directional antenna technology which can be used for last mile connectivity. So uh, I don't think much change in the lives of the people have happened after UT administration. What surely has happened is people have more and more understood what is corruption, and otherwise, very noble and a good population has seen now violence. Okay, they have seen corruption in the last 5 years, all the wrong things that were there in India, uh, which we could have learned from a community of another part of India, other than the mainstream, from a tribal community. What we could have learned, instead of that, we have brought all the wrong things from the central government and have imposed it on the people there.
In one of your interviews, you also said, I think few days back, before you came to Delhi, that you had to fly to Delhi to tell your side of the story. So who have you met in Delhi?
Yes, so before I answer that, I want to say how after Sonam was detained, the whole of Ladakh was put under internet jammers. So there was no way we could access internet or do these kinds of calls. They were going on issuing unilateral, press conference after press conference, alleging all wrong things about Sonam, about Hayal. And then they were stopping the media from coming to interview us so that we give them our part of the story. So it felt like to be on a house arrest. All our staff and students who would go out were being questioned, as if they had committed some crime. There were interrogations. And what is most, bad and condemned is 4 days ago, they have taken two of our staff, Dr. Setan Norbu and Stanzin Yulo, who are working on different projects at Hayal, and they have taken them and they are mentally and physically torturing them in the police custody, and they are beating them up just because they have this perception that they may have some information about Sonam Wangchuk or me or Hayal. To extract that, they are treating them in an inhuman way and brutally beating them up. And the way they detained me and the way the CRPF killed those four youth, it was not to protect the Ladakhis. There were strict orders to escalate this violence, because every time the shooting happens in the legs, if you have to maintain, peace. These four people, one of them was shot in the heart, one of them was shot in the head, and there was no need to have done that. They were not causing any protest. So similarly, I also felt completely, like under house arrest, and I had to escape to come to Delhi so that I could do a press conference here and tell the world what is happening to us, and also have the freedom to take the next steps of action, which you might have seen yesterday. I wrote a representation to the President of India, including with a copy to the Prime Minister, Home Minister, Law Minister, LG of Ladakh, and the DC. But I am yet to hear from any of them. And for just a simple request that I want to know the condition of Mr. Sonam Wangchuk, who has been away for 6 days, and I know nothing about him. So this is the kind of media control that they're exercising. This is the kind of narrative control that they're exercising. And this is just not the way a problem is solved in what we call a mother of democracies, that is India.
I think today only we heard that the government has released 26 men who were protesters who were detained during the protest in Ladakh last week. And this, they say, has been done in goodwill, to sort of display the intent to resolve this matter. How would you respond to that?
Now, first of all, what were the charges under which they were taken in were wrong in the first place. So it's good that they have been released. They need to be free. But of the 78 or more, only 26 have been released. What about the others who had no fault in the whole thing? Okay, this UT and the MHA should answer this question, that a very, very peaceful place, 5 years before, when there was no UT and no commissioners and governors who used to come, there was no such protest and violence. So people of Ladakh and I and everybody, we are asking this question, that why has violence been instigated now when it was never there? People who are absolutely peaceful, strong, courageous, patriotic, who've served the Indian Army, who've stood, with the Indian Army with on every front, were extremely peaceful. If they have erupted into violence now, then is it they who have erupted? Have they been instigated, or has there been a conspiracy to just have this narrative of violence in Ladakh? Because they were peacefully protesting. It's only the CRPF that opened tear gas, and then the youth, started pelting stones, and the whole situation escalated and got out of hands. So it is the failure of the DGP of Ladakh to be unable to contain a very, very quiet and peaceful people. So how will they handle other difficult areas of India? They are misfits to protect the Indian, populace, and to ensure that peace and safety is there. So it is not for the Ladakhis and the youth to answer what happened the way it happened. It is for us to ask the UT and the MHA that why now this violence has happened for the first time in the history of Ladakh. What has changed? Nothing has changed except one, that it is the MHA and UT who are directly meddling with the affairs of the people without consultation of the locals and the stakeholders and the communities. That's all that has changed. So they have to answer this, why there was violence, who fires at their own people, especially when these people have had not at all any, history of violence or of instigating anything. Nobody fires at their own people.
My final question to you would be that, going forward, what according to you is the solution to this issue, and how will the Ladakhi people take this forward?
So we will take the best course of action. I will keep you posted. Okay. But as far as the people of Ladakh are concerned, they have lost complete trust in the government to solve their problems. And now government has to work 2 times harder, to get back the situation that was there a week ago.
All right. Thank you so much for joining the Tribune. Thanks a lot for your time. You were watching the Tribune. I'm Sneha Richhariya from Delhi.